Can I deal with the people who are jumping on a bandwagon? Now, it's a very emotional bandwagon, and I understand why. But these are the people who have said nothing for months and months and months about making sure that the people who helped Australia's Defence Force and the Australian Embassy in Afghanistan over the 20 years that we were in that part of the world. These people said nothing with their TV shows about the need to evacuate as many people from Afghanistan who had helped Australia as possible. Perfect example on the project last night where the emotion was turned up to 11 when, frankly, it's too late.
Christopher, we've been doing stories for weeks now on the number of the interpreters trying to get back, taking years of applications, years and years and years. Like, it's pretty gross to use people and then just leave them.
Because that's what's happened. In fact, it's not what's happened. You know it and I know it. Because here are the actual facts. Something that you didn't hear last night on the project, something you don't see on the 6 p.m. news, and I don't know why. Has every single person who's helped Australia been taken out? No. But 8,500 people from Afghanistan have come to Australia as refugees since 2013. 1,800 of them were people who were working as interpreters or helping the ADF. 430 of them have come in since April. I repeat, has every single one come out? No. Should they? Of course. But the idea that the government's done bugger all is just not true. And the truth right now is the chaos that is existing in Afghanistan means there's a very serious debate that has to happen inside our Defence Force and at the highest levels of government, which is, are you willing to risk an Australian life to go and pick up those that are still left? If you think that's okay, cool. But you don't have to live with the consequence of the worst possible news coming back out of a rescue mission. The Prime Minister does.
Since April, we've been able to get 430, a bit more than that, of those locally engaged Afghan employees, people working with us and their families out of Afghanistan and here into Australia, and they're already here. We've resettled about 1,800 over the course of these past many years. We shut down our embassy in May in anticipation of these types of events. We are still working to ensure that we can safely remove people from that situation with our partners and our allies. I can't go too much into the operational details of this, but let me say this about our presence there. We went there to stop Osama bin Laden and to stop al-Qaeda having a base of operations in Afghanistan, and that's what was achieved.
So when all else fails, and I understand the emotion involved in it, I share the emotion, I share the frustration, I share the anger that exists from lots of people here, but it's not binary, it's not all or nothing. Australia has done its part. Will everyone be saved? Sadly not. But in part that's because of what we know has been coming. Remember the people who criticised Australia for closing its embassy a couple of months ago? Well, that turned out to be a very smart decision because Australia has not had to go through the experience that the United States is currently going through. An embarrassing, disgraceful display. Supposedly, the great strategic mind that is Joe Biden was telling people this just a couple of weeks ago about what would happen when eventually the American troops finally pulled the pin.
Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable. The likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely.
But of course you have seen the disgrace that is the information that was so wrong, or that they just weren't telling us about the truth of what happened with the Afghan army. As I told you last night, people weren't being paid for months due to the corruption that exists in that country. And when the time came, they didn't even fire a shot, trying to push back the Taliban at all. The Taliban now ends up with the very equipment that the Americans helped fund for the best part of the past 10 years. It is a permanent stain on the record of Joe Biden. And because Joe Biden isn't Donald Trump, well, inevitably, the history books will somehow judge him better than Donald Trump. But Donald Trump did not oversee what happened in Afghanistan. Yes, he wanted the troops to pull out, but this idea that somehow he made a deal that couldn't possibly be undone is garbage. They want to undo the wall. They want to put back the Iran nuclear deal. But Joe Biden, who was on holidays when all of this was taking place, apparently needed to be convinced to come back and address the nation in the United States today. He's not in the Oval Office tonight. Instead, he's back on holidays. And he didn't even engage with the central issue, which was the failure to plan what happened this year.
I stand squarely behind my decision. After 20 years, I've learned the hard way that there was never a good time to withdraw U.S. forces.
And unbelievably, a media that has covered up for him for oh so long, that's looked the other way through all of his presidency, well, it's officially shown that the Emperor has no clothes.
The president also said we didn't get them out earlier because many didn't want to go. Well, many didn't want to go because people like President Biden were saying it was highly unlikely that the Taliban would overtake that country. So there are failures on so many levels.
I think the honor of the United States depends on getting those Afghans out.
I think the next month here, Lester, is going to be horrendous for him, public relations-wise. This is going to be a propaganda tool on the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
I was appalled. There was such a profound, bold-faced lie in that speech. The thing that they were most concerned about was the optics of a chaotic evacuation. Well, they got exactly what they were most concerned of by failing to do what was right when we could have done it. I am appalled that the president didn't say, was we need to be talking about how we're going to get every single one of these people out.
By the way, America has 20,000 interpreters and military assistance people they need to get out. You've seen photos of them being able to shove 650 into one plane. A plane people were literally holding on to and died because, of course, they weren't on the inside. And meantime, there's sort of this weird part of reporting that's taking place. Now, of course, to be on the ground is way harder than sitting here and opining from the other side of the world. But have a look at the strange juxtaposition of this reporting from CNN on the ground in Kabul.
They're just chanting death to America, but they seem friendly at the same time. It's utterly bizarre.
This is a form of reporting we've seen before from CNN. Remember in the middle of burning buildings at the height of the BLM riots, where it was fiery but mostly peaceful. So feel free not to trust CNN to give you the full picture.